your old buddy, your old high school, high school mate, if you will, Hulk Hogan, has that big walking stick because of that leg drop. He kept landing on his butt and his back.
Yeah, and there's two things that him and I discussed. One of them is, and I'll tell you this real quick story. Well, I started in wrestling before he did, and he'd come to the Armory in Tampa on Tuesday nights and sit in the same seat. And I'd see him at a beach that we went to that was close to where we grew up in our the southern part of Tampa. And he would say, "Steve, man, you got to get me in the wrestling business. You got to get me in the wrestling business. I want to be a wrestler." And I'd say, "Man, Terry, you play a bass guitar in a rock and roll band. You're going to do better than I am. You're going to make any money doing this." You know how many times I ate my words from that? I mean, and with that being said, I mean, friends are friends, but at the same time, they can only get you so far. And then sometimes other people can put you down. So understanding what you're doing, I've taught so many people this industry. And some of the things I teach them is, never compare yourself to anybody else in the business. You're never going to be happy. You're going to be miserable. You're going to be thinking it's not fair. I should be on top. I should have their position. I got a better body. I'm better looking, whatever it is. I can talk better. So for all of those, misconceptions, it's not always based on that. It goes back to wrestling as an opinion. Everybody's got one, and it's based off their experiences. So just accept it and live it.
Now, what else were you and Hulk talking about? I know you were talking about how he maybe wouldn't make money. What else are you and Hulk talking about?
Well, the cane, the cane thing was, we just spoke about it, but every time I see him barely getting around, and I tell him, I say, "Terry, man, come on." I was like a basketball in the wrestling business. I'm 6 foot, weighed anywhere from 2 and a quarter to 260, depending on my character. But I wasn't a massive man, so I took all the bumps. I got bounced around like a basketball. They're like, all you did was drop a big leg, and now you're crippled. I said, you did half the moves, made 10 times the money, but now you got a cane and you've had 10 back surgeries. I said, I don't understand it. And he said, that's the doctor told him that it's like dropping on his rear end and his spine because he had gotten so big and heavy and everything. The rings in the WWF in the early 90s, when I went up there as Skinner, were hard as a rock. I mean, I don't know who built them, but I can remember my very first match as Skinner. I took a tackle, which is a simple move, but when I hit, it almost knocked the wind out of me, and I rolled right straight to the floor and went under the ring. I wanted to see what was wrong with the ring, and I saw all these supports, and I'm going, "Oh my God, that's the last time I'm going down." But his body had taken so much punishment. So in a comparison, after I'd made the mistake of giving him my childhood advice, don't get into the business, you're not going to make no money. Now it's like I'm giving him my critique of his career about how come you're on a cane? I mean, it's like Andre the Giant being on a cane. He was never on a cane, and he is a monster, but he picked and chose the bumps he took.
When you look at it with Hulk back then, too, did you ever think that he was going to be like a huge star? Like you're saying, like, yeah, don't get in the business. Go play, go play bass at the Tootsie's Bar and Grill or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, did you ever think he would become what he became?
At the first, it was kind of like I never really gave it much thought, who's going to climb a ladder. But when he made the Rocky movie, and he wasn't some jabroni wrestler that they just threw in a movie with a crappy part, and he actually had a really good part of a very classical movie at the time, I can't think of the words for it, but a trend-setting times and eras or whatever, so far as movies. When he made that Rocky movie, I knew it was going to break him loose. But I had no idea where the wrestling business was going like anybody else. I mean, I was just on the roller coaster ride of the ups and downs. And now all of a sudden, all the territories are caved in. And now all of a sudden, only opportunities you had are one or two, maybe WWF or WCW or whatever. But I had no idea when he first got in. I mean, he kind of started here in Florida and then just disappeared in my world. But that's just the way it was back in territorial days. It doesn't interrupt friendships, but we didn't have cell phones when we started, so it was like we had a can with a string that was tied and you could listen to it. That's about the extent of our inventions back in those days. But I mean, I didn't really stay in touch with him. Terry and I were friends, but I also had Dick Slater, Austin Idol, Mike Graham. We all went to high school and we all grew up as kids together, and we all had a passion for wrestling business.